Hey everyone, OG Cap here. In a change of pace from the movie side of things, I am going to focus on a series for this video. Of course, it just so happens to be on one of my favorite subjects. I'm sure you have already guessed it. Loki Season 2.
Always will be.
Yes, everyone's favorite baddie is back. The MCU has had many villains, but the god of chaos and mischief is the only one that has survived from his beginnings in 2011's Thor till now. Tom Hiddleston, who initially auditioned for the role of Thor, has made this character such a charismatic, likable villain that he was able to outlast most of the original superheroes in the MCU. Before we get into this, I appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Select the like button if you like what you're seeing. While you're at it, click the bell so you can be notified when my next videos come out. I like your comments, so feel free to leave me some. Before I get into the details on Season 2, I thought I would give you some background information on our favorite trickster. Loki is the biological son of Loki, the king of the frost giants. His father abandoned him to die during the battle between the Asgardians and the frost giants. Odin found him and named him Loki. He used his magic to make him look like an Asgardian before returning home with him. Odin adopted him into the family, raising him as his own son and a prince of Asgard. His adopted mother, Frigga, taught him how to use magic and developed a very close relationship with him. He developed a strong bond with his brother, Thor. However, he disliked living in his brother's shadow. He felt that Odin favored Thor to be the next king. Odin told both of them,
"But the day will come when one of you will have to defend that peace. Only one of you can ascend to the throne, but both of you were born to be kings."
He finds out the truth of his origins as an adult after fighting with the frost giants during a confrontation on Jotunheim. Loki is touched by a Jotun and does not react to the frost giants' freezing touch. They return to Asgard. He later appears in the armory and questions Odin about his true heritage.
Stop!
Am I cursed?
No,
What am I?
you're my son.
What more than that? The casket wasn't the only thing you took from Jotunheim that day, was it?
No. In the aftermath of the battle, I went into the temple and I found a baby.
Why? You were knee-deep in Jotun blood. Why would you take me?
You were an innocent child.
Odin reveals the truth. Loki yells at him for lying to him, causing him to fall into the Odin sleep. Loki is an expert liar. He is also charming, unpredictable, spontaneous, cunning, gifted, and extremely intelligent. Many times, he has betrayed even his own loved ones to achieve his own goals, especially Thor. He believes he is destined for a glorious purpose, which he thinks will be accomplished by becoming a ruler. He is consumed with the need to show his family that he is a worthy son, like Thor. His desire to rule and devious acts are ultimately a desperate way of not showing weakness. Loki does not want or enjoy hurting others, especially his family, but he does it because he feels the need to create the illusion that he is the one in control. His mischievous actions are rooted in his desire to get others' attention. He loves being praised and the center of the show. He constantly enjoys making long speeches, performing extravagant entrances, showing off his intelligence, and living in luxury while others serve him. In the end, this need for attention comes from his fear of being alone. This need for attention and acceptance from his family are a result of the fact that Loki loves them deeply. He eventually proves himself to be a good-hearted individual. Loki becoming emotional watching his father's final moments shows how much he actually cares for him despite everything. Thor is someone that he admires and envies at the same time. He is motivated by his love for Thor and his redemption for his criminal past. He wishes to be seen as his brother's equal, and he eventually finds satisfaction fighting by his side. On Sakaar, Loki is reluctant to accept to part ways with his brother when Thor agrees that he should stay there. He is hurt by him saying that they are destined to be separated because of their personal differences. They eventually reconcile, and after Ragnarok, Loki demonstrates that his brother matters more than his own own ego and quest for power. He is content just standing by his side. We all know that Loki is a master of illusion, as demonstrated by the number of times that he has died, only to show up later. However, he ultimately sacrifices himself to Thanos out of love for Thor. But guess what? He found his way back, sort of, in season 1 of Loki on Disney+. The first episode shows how he is able to gain access to the Tesseract during the Avengers' time travel and use it to escape. He lands in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, where he is captured by the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, before they reset the timeline. At TVA headquarters, he watches a video narrated by Miss Minutes explaining that he was captured because he deviated from his path, determined by the creators of the TVA, the Timekeepers. He learns that a long time ago there was a multiversal war. The Timekeepers managed to restore peace by reorganizing the multiverse into the sacred timeline. When he stepped off his path, he created a Nexus event, which resulted in the sacred timeline branching that could lead to another war. Deviating from this turned him into what they call a variant, so he must be judged for his offenses. During his trial, Judge Ravonna Renslayer accuses him of crimes against the sacred timeline. Loki believes the TVA should suspect the Avengers, because they were the ones that went back in time, causing him to acquire the Tesseract and end up in this situation. Ravonna states that the Avengers' mission was meant to happen according to the Timekeepers, but his escape was not. Loki tries to use his powers and fails. Ravonna tells him that magic does not work inside their headquarters. He is sentenced to be reset. He resists, not wanting the organization to decide his fate in the story. She tells him that this story is not about him. It never was. Mobius, who had been watching, convinces Ravonna to use Loki to solve their current criminal investigation. Mobius reviews Loki's misdeeds and questions his habit of hurting and killing people. Loki still believes he is still going to rule. Mobius shows him some events from his life in a recording, reviewing some of his misdeeds. These include events during his fight with the Avengers,
And I will not be bullied by that.
Puny god.
and the time he hijacked a plane as DB Cooper, losing a bet to Thor. Mobius notes that he loses a lot, and his actions are not really mischievous. Instead, he only causes harm, pain, and death. He then shows Loki events from his future. If he was taken back to Asgard, Loki would be the cause of his mother Frigga's death. This deeply disturbs him, and he thinks the recording is a fake. Loki's role in the sacred timeline is to cause death and destruction in order to allow the ascension of others, like the Avengers, not his own. Mobius is called away, and Loki steals the TVA tech. He transports himself from the room. He attempts to retrieve the Tesseract, but gives up escaping when he discovers that the TVA's power exceeds his own and that of the Infinity Stones. They are powerless and are used as paperweights in the TVA. He returns to the Time Theater and watches the other events in the recordings of his future. These show the deaths of Frigga and Odin, him reconciling with Thor, and his own death by Thanos' hand. When Mobius returns, Loki admits recognizing himself as a villain, but Mobius doesn't see him that way. Loki agrees to work with Mobius to capture a rogue variant of himself that has been killing TVA agents. He learns that the TVA has pruned many Loki variants, more than any other kind of variant. Loki identifies that this variant is hiding in apocalypses. He explains to Mobius that everything is destined to be destroyed in an apocalypse. The variant could do anything without causing a branched timeline. Mobius tests this theory. He takes Loki to Pompeii before the destruction, where Loki starts a commotion. He reveals to everyone that they are from the future and that they are all going to die when the volcano erupts. Mobius realizes that this theory is correct when the timeline doesn't branch despite Loki's efforts. They are able to track the variant to the apocalypse of Alabama 2050 at a Roxcart superstore.
You really believe in this Loki?
Loki fights with the variant and it finally appears to him, revealing to be a female version of him. She escapes through a time door and Loki goes after her. He chases her, leading them back to the TVA. He faces her again and offers an alliance, but she refuses and fights him. Ravonna appears, making Loki use the Tempad to transport himself and the variant to another place. There, they fight for the Tempad, until she sees that it needs to be recharged. He takes it from her and conceals it with his magic. She realizes that they are transported to the apocalypse of Lamentus 1, in which the moon will crash into a planet, killing everyone. They are forced to work together to survive, and decide decide to look for a power source to recharge the tempad. She reveals her name to be Sylvie. During a drunken binge waiting for the tempad to recharge, Loki damages it and they have to find another way off the moon. They decide to hijack the Ark and make it take off before Lamentis is destroyed. While trying to get to the Ark, it is destroyed by a giant asteroid, leaving them trapped. Sylvie and Loki accept the fact that they are going to die. He sits beside her as she watches the moon being destroyed and apologizes to her. She asks him if what makes someone a Loki is the fact that they are destined to lose. He replies, even if they lose, they will always survive. Isn't that the truth? Loki always comes back. Preparing for their deaths, they have a moment in which they gaze and smile at each other, while new feelings grow between them. Just before they perish, two time doors suddenly appear before them as the TVA shows up to arrest them. The moment Sylvie touched Loki, it created a Nexus event, causing an abnormal straight-up branch. It allowed the TVA to locate them, even in an apocalypse. They are separated and put in different time theaters. After speaking with Mobius, Loki is taken to a time cell. It is a memory prison in which Loki has to relive the day he cut Lady Sif's hair to play a prank on her, and then got beaten by her because of it.
Seriously?
You!
Sif!
You conniving, craven, pathetic worm! You did this!
What?
I hope you know you deserve to be alone, and you always will be.
All right, a bad memory prison? How quaint.
Mobius returns to interrogate Loki. He deduces that Loki is in love with Sylvie. He explains that their romantic relationship is the reason of the Nexus event on Lamentis, and it could also break the current reality. Two variants of the same being falling in love would create chaos. He pokes fun at the fact that Loki fell in love with himself. He reveals that all members of the TVA are variants. After confirming the truth, Mobius returns to talk to him. He tells him that he was right about the TVA, and he needs Loki to trust him if he wants to save Sylvie. Mobius tells Loki that he needs to know he believes he could be whatever he would like to be, even someone good. He needs him to know this in case anyone has told him any different. As they leave the cell, they run into Ravonna, who knows Mobius knows the truth. She orders the Minutemen to prune Mobius as Loki watches in horror and cries for his friends. Sylvie and Loki are reunited as Ravonna and the Minutemen take them to face the Timekeepers. They try to confront them. Loki tells them to do their worst because he has lost count of how many times he's been killed and is not scared of them. They are sentenced to be deleted, but B-15 shows up and frees them. They fight and manage to defeat all of the guards. Sophie beheads one of the Timekeepers, only to find out they are just a mindless android. Frustrated that they found no answers, Loki tries to comfort Sylvie and attempts to confess his love for her. But as he is distracted, he is suddenly pruned by Ravonna. He wakes up somewhere else thinking he is in hell, but then sees other Loki variants inviting him to join them in order to survive. He agrees and meets classic Loki, Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, and Boastful Loki. He demands to know where he is and what's going on. They explain that they are in the Void, the place where everything goes after being pruned by the TVA. They also tell him they are walking fast to escape Alliath. It is a living tempest that consumes energy and matter that is transported to the Void, assuring nothing ever returns. Loki learns that every plan to escape has failed by the other variants. He follows them to their underground hideout, the Loki Palace. Classic Loki asks why he wants to return to the TVA so badly, to which Boastful Loki pleasantly asks if he had left his glorious purpose there. Loki replies that he sort of did. He tells him about Sylvie. He says she needs him and that she is their chance to stop the TVA. He plans to kill Alliath to leave the Void and find her. They just laugh because they think it is impossible to kill Alliath. Frustrated, Loki attempts to leave the hideout, but he runs into President Loki, who is accompanied by an army of Lokis. All the Lokis want to take the throne from Kid Loki, and a battle breaks out. Loki watches this scene and is clearly ashamed by the actions of the other variants of himself. Classic Loki casts illusions that allow him, Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki to escape. Classic Loki and Kid Loki express their frustrations, stating that all Lokis are blinded by their own ambitions and not being able to change. Whenever they try to fix themselves and become better individuals, the TVA sends them to die in the Void. Loki tells them this is why he needs to to go back to the TVA and find Sophie. They agree to help him kill Elias. They will only guide him, but not help him fight the creature. As they are watching Elias from a distance and thinking of a plan, a car approaches. Loki realizes it is Sylvie and Mobius. He asks if she is okay and how did she get to the void. She says that she came to help him. He introduces the other Lokis and explains their plan. Sylvie tells him it is absurd to stab a giant cloud to death. She explains that the person behind the TVA is beyond the void and is using Elias as a guard dog to protect the only entrance. She says she managed to link with the creature earlier and plans to enchant it. Later, Loki and Silver are sitting together discussing recent events. They talk about what caused the Nexus event that saved them, the fact that they are falling in love. Sylvie is cautious of him, but he tells her he was once that person, but he is not that person anymore and won't disappoint her. As they prepare to face Elias, Sylvie gives Ravana's tempad to Loki for him to return to the TVA with Mobius. He refuses to leave her, saying that he will go wherever she goes. The other Lokis say goodbye, and Kid Loki conjures up a sword and gives it to Loki before leaving with the others. Loki asks Mobius what he will do when he returns to the TVA. He states he will burn it to the ground and thanks him for the spark. Loki hugs Mobius and thanks him for everything. Sylvie and Loki wait for a branched timeline to appear to enchant Elias while it is distracted. He realizes they don't have time to wait and tells Sylvie he will try to create a distraction. She asks him not to do it, but he runs using his magic to ignite Kid Loki's sword. He attempts to call for the creature while Sylvie starts to enchant it. He fails and then panics when he sees Elias going after her instead. Classic Loki comes back to save Sophie and uses his magic to cast a perfect illusion of Asgard. She questions how he is even doing such an illusion. Loki tells her they are stronger than they realize. While Elias is distracted, Sylvie takes Loki's hand and tells him they're going to enchant the creature together. He tells her he doesn't know how to do enchantments. She states he actually does because they are the same. Classic Loki's illusion distracts Elias, but he gets tired and the illusion disappears. He is devoured by the creature, sacrificing himself to help them. When Elias moves towards the pair again, they manage to enchant it in time, causing the living storm to dissipate, revealing a castle in the distance. They arrive at the castle. Sylvie becomes clearly nervous, telling Loki that she has waited for this moment her entire life, so he gives her time before they enter. Inside, they meet Miss Minutes, who states that the creator and ruler of the TVA, He Who Remains, is impressed that they came as far as they did. He offers them a deal. They can have everything they want if they let the TVA continue to do their work. Despite being tempted, they refuse the offer. Sylvie says that this would be living in a fiction, and Loki states that now they will be the ones who decide their own destiny. They meet He Who Remains and then enter an elevator after he invites a duo up to his office. He asks them if they are surprised of him being different than what they expected. Loki is surprised seeing that he's just a man, while Sylvie says he is easier to kill because of this. She makes several attempts, but he escapes every time with his modified tempad. He explains that he knows and sees everything, including things the TVA doesn't know. He saw everything they did on their journey and facilitated their way to get to the Citadel. He Who Remains planned this whole encounter and also knows everything that will happen next. He tells them about all the variants of himself and how they caused the multiversal war. The war ended when He Who Remains managed to weaponize Elias and prune the timelines, putting an end to his own variants. He then explains there are two options for Sylvie and Loki to decide what they will do next. Kill him and free the timeline, allowing infinite versions of him to start another multiversal war. Or they could take his place and become the new rulers of the TVA. Loki asks why he would give them control of the TVA. He Who Remains says he is too old and tired, so he has been searching for someone to take his place. He tells them that he has found the right person to do it, and that person arrived as a duo. Loki asks if he would just sit and wait for them to decide his fate. He Who Remains replies that he will, because there is no real bad result for him, no matter what they choose. If the duo decides to take his place, they will continue his life's work. If they kill him, his variants will cause a multiversal war, which will end up with him becoming the ruler of the TVA again. He removes his tempad and has no way to defend himself. Sylvie takes her chance to attack him, but Loki surprises her by holding her arm and stopping her from doing it. Loki believes He Who Remains, and they should think about their next actions carefully to not risk unleashing something worse. Sylvie accuses him of betraying her, wanting He Who Remains' position to have a throne for himself. Loki is visibly hurt, thinking she never trusted him despite everything they've gone through. They start a battle inside the office, with Sylvie attempting to get Loki out of the way, while he is trying to prevent her from reaching He Who Remains. Remains. He begs her to stop and think about the consequences of making the wrong choice. She dares Loki to kill her to take the throne she thinks he wants. But Loki, clearly disturbed by this, refuses to harm her. He continues to try to convince her not to kill He Who Remains. He tells her the only thing he wants is for her to be okay. She becomes emotional and drops the machete. She kisses him, but tells him she is different from him, before pushing him through a time door that she opened with the tempad. He is sent back to the TVA, but tries to reach Sylvie by crossing the time door again, but it closes before he is able. He is completely heartbroken that the woman that he loves has chosen the path of revenge at any cost, even after his attempts to stop her. He decides to warn others about what happened. He finds Mobius and B-15 in the archives while they're checking the great increase in the number of branched timelines. Loki tells them about he and Sylvie freeing the timeline, and that they need to prepare for the infinite versions of He Who Remains that are coming and will start a multiversal war. To his surprise, they don't recognize him. He turns around and sees that there is a statue of Kang, the variant that He Who Remains was referring to, where the statues of the three timekeepers once stood, indicating this is not the same TVA he knows. Did you get all that? This leads us into Loki Season 2. In the aftermath of the shocking season finale of Season 1, Loki finds himself in a battle for the soul of the TVA. Along with Mobius, Hunter B-15, and a team of new and returning characters, Loki navigates an ever-expanding and increasingly dangerous multiverse. He is in search of Sylvie, Judge Renslayer, Miss Minutes, and the truth of what it means to possess free will and glorious purpose. The main cast is back with Tom Hiddleston, Sophia DiMartino, Jonathan Majors, and Owen Wilson. The main addition is Oscar and Golden Globe winner Ki-Hugh Kwan. Let's take a look at a preview of what is coming.
We have a saying in Asgard: where there are wolf's ears, wolf's teeth are near. It's a trap.
A little over the top, don't you think? I thought it was spot on.
What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to believe.
Times, you know that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
It's up to us to save this place.
We're playing God.
We are gods. War is on its way.
The multiversal war is coming.
What is it that you really want?
I want to save my friends. Come on, you're the god of mischief.
All right. Again.
Don't overthink it.
Tom Hiddleston's Loki has survived so many times and now seems poised to strengthen the MCU. Not bad for a villain who was supposed to be killed off in 2013's Thor: The Dark World. Give credit to Hiddleston for extending the character beyond expectation. Make sure to watch episode 1 of Loki Season 2 on Disney+. See you soon, and let's go to the movies.